Yeah, it's gonna change whether you want it to or not. So how do you create a place for yourself? How do you create a space for your people, for your community within it all?
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Finding a Way, the podcast for positive change. Our aim is to highlight the brightest hearts and minds in the East Bay and across the globe, tell their stories, and find a way to a brighter future. I'm your host, Jim, and today I'm here with none other than Shomari Carter. Shomari, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so just, we're going to ease into it. How are you feeling today? Like, what's on your mind?
I'm feeling good. I'm hopeful. It's the beginning of the year. Everybody has good energy, so I love this time of year because you feed off everybody else's energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Any resolutions?
Do better.
Do better.
Do better. I mean, higher. Take it higher this year.
Right on.
Absolutely.
Well, hopefully we can, unpack that a little bit as we move on. I'm feeling about the same, kind of riding that New Year's high for sure. I've been in the gym a little bit lately trying to get my summer body early. But, yeah, feeling good. Definitely excited about the year in front of us for sure.
Absolutely.
So just kind of wanted to, first of all, I guess, give a little context of who I'm talking to. So if you don't mind, you want to give people just a little insight, who you are, what you do.
That's a loaded question.
I know that's maybe the hardest question of the night.
Yeah.
So work with me, but
That's the toughest one because I can take that a lot of different ways, formal and informal. But the way I like to say it, I'm a community member. I used to love to introduce myself as West Oakland resident. That's who I am above all. I'm a world resident by way of West Oakland. Wear many hats doing that. Just involved in community in various different ways, from education, food security, economic development, general community development. That's it in a nutshell.
that's the one you kind of, I think, highlighted, that last one, community development. We spoke recently, and that's something I think that really suits you well. Do you want to kind of speak to that a little bit more, or
Yeah.
what does that mean to you?
Community development, it takes on a lot of different aspects. I mean, like all the things that I mentioned before, they fall under that umbrella. Involved in a number of projects where it's not just about a physical community, but how people live. What does it really look like? I got started in community work because my grandfather, my grandfather was a pastor, and he did a lot of community work, always feeding somebody, going to look after people when they were sick. So I grew up that way and always kind of involved in community life. And for simple reasons, for me as an adult, I wanted to be able to speak to my neighbors, say hi and bye, borrow some brown sugar.
Yeah.
Those are the things I think are when I think of neighbors.
Yeah, that's something, because I feel like I think about that a lot, actually. Like, we have this kind of loose notion of what it means to be a part of a community. I mean, obviously, most people default to like local, just who's in my vicinity and everything. But I think the part that you kind of harped on is like the actual, communication and the elements of just being personable with people. Like, I feel like that's something that I notice, at least in my communities, is kind of lacking. And I think that that's something that I would like to see change. My parents, for example, or my dad specifically, is like just like you, I would say, like, he's North Oakland Jim. Like, he's just like, he gonna talk to you, gonna talk to his neighbors, find something, even if it's just the weather, just to kind of comment on. And I think that my generation definitely kind of is a little bit more to themselves. Is that something that you feel like you notice, or it's just like, I know you kind of talked about how you grew up and how that's kind of influenced it, but what's your thoughts around that?
It's absolutely necessary, and most people don't realize that I'm shy. I can sit somewhere by myself without saying anything to anybody.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna give you shy, but go on.
I'm very shy. I could sit somewhere and not speak to anybody, but I force it, and I force it because, like I said, grew up in a part of a community. West Oakland is very tight knit. Families know each other generationally. It's one high school in West Oakland, so it's unique in Oakland and the Bay Area. And coming from a place called the lower bottom, people look down on you. So it keeps us together a lot closer than a lot of other places. And so we look out for each other in ways that you probably won't see. And for me, just being able to say hello to somebody, everything starts with a hello. I try to make sure that I greet any and everybody that I can. And that's what makes us human.
Yeah.
You know, apes don't go around saying hello.
Dapping up and stuff.
they can just about do just about anything else we doing, but they don't go around saying hello. And I mean, like, we gotta remember that element. That's the human element, just being able to communicate.
You ever see the movie Kingsman? I got it. Manners maketh man. So that's what differentiates us from the other animals, is that we have the capacity, therefore maybe the obligation to be a little bit more human. Right on. You kind of started to pivot in the direction I definitely wanted today to go, talking about just your journey to where you're at now. So you talked a bit about, you know, growing up, your grandfather being a pastor and everything, and how that's shaped your journey so far. Take us the rest of the way. How did Shomari land himself in the multi-hyphenate space that he's in today?
I'm a random person, and I'm comfortable with being random. You know, we taught that you need to pick a path and go in that direction. Long as I'm moving, I'm okay. You know, if you're not moving, you're dead. You got to grow. So that's what I'm looking for. It's not for a specific thing or a specific way. And so my life is going in many different directions. Coming out of high school, went into the Army, did almost 5 years in the Army, which was a decision I wasn't looking to do. Just last minute, me and a friend, we didn't want to be broke college students. We both had scholarship offers and signed up, and we're gone for the next 5 years, which gave me a real kind of worldview, and meeting people from different places and different backgrounds and having a real conversation with somebody who said I was racist. We hated black people. I didn't know any better. I love Jet magazine. Like, and he literally had a stack of Jet magazines, but having a conversation with somebody like that, it gives you a different perspective of the world and how we really operate. So with that, came home. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Was doing some T-shirt designs and things like that. Came home, learned how to silk screen, bought a press, just start learning how to do it, figuring it out. Wanted to do more designs. Went and bought a camera so I can capture images. Had to learn how to do that and figure it out. Cheating, looking over people's shoulders.
Tell them the story, because this is when I realized Shomari might be a genius, y'all. Tell people how you learn how to use the camera.
So I would go to events. I did two things. I would go to events and I would find party promoters. And party promoters, they give you $50 and let you and your friends in and give you drink vouchers. So you get a lot of love in the community.
You know, double incentives, everything.
And those are hard places to shoot. Lights flashing, things going on, dark. So you learn a lot there. But I would go to these events, any event that I can go to. Made fake press passes that I'm surprised
like graphic design.
They were horrible, but they got me on stages in a lot of places and in the door. And so a lot of photographers have egos and they want to have a good shot. So I would feed into that ego. Hey man, you got that one, didn't you? What was your settings for that? And then I would get a setting, and then if it was a good shot, and then I had a setting that I would write down and I would use and try it out for the next time. And I mean, like, when I bought my camera, I totally didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Bought a professional level camera and could cut it on.
Finessed. I love that story, though, because it's like, it's a really creative, it shows how resourceful you are when it comes to sourcing information. Like, a lot of people kind of hit roadblocks and, you know, don't even know what question to ask to get them the information that they're looking for. Like, I think about that a lot because we have, like, you know, Google and everything. You can really learn a lot, but people don't really know often what to ask. And I just thought that was such a clever way to, you know, kind of sidestep that in a community, not just, you know, going to a device, but actually tapping in with somebody and say, oh, I like that shot. How did you? Yeah. And I thought that was just
But what you're saying, asking the question, that's really important. That's something that I intentionally do. And I intentionally think about what I'm asking and am I asking the right question? You can get an answer all the time, but is it to the question that you really need?
Yeah.
And I mean, like it's an exercise that I do. Okay, what am I really asking? Because I got an answer, but it doesn't get me anywhere.
Right.
So what is it that I'm seeking? And I'm just being naturally inquisitive. I took everything apart as a kid. If it had screws, it came apart.
So this is something that you've always kind of had within you, as far as like that curiosity, that desire to grow and try things and be in your communities, would you say?
Yeah, and I think that we all have some level of curiosity. A lot of times, people is directed in a certain path, but as a father, it's important to me to make sure that my son gets to ask questions and I don't kill his curiosity. He can believe whatever he wants. I heard on YouTube one time, and the guy say, "It's your job to figure out what you want. It's up to the universe if it's possible." And a lot of times, you know, adults are telling kids what's possible and what's not possible.
And that's not our job.
Yeah. And I live my life by, and I ask people all the time, is it not possible because you've never seen it done? Or is it not possible because of the laws of physics?
Right. That's actually something I was watching a clip where it was like like negotiator, FBI guy, I don't know, somebody. And he was saying that like the way you phrase questions is often the determining factor of the type of answer you get, obviously. But like there was this lady and a guy who both said, ask questions that are like yes or no. So when you say like, is it impossible to do something? They can't say it's impossible 9 times out of 10.
Right.
Like, would it be impossible for you to move your car or something like that? Like, you know, it's going to get them to be like, oh, no, I actually could do that, as opposed to, no, I don't want to. So it's like kind of disarming in a way.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yes, that's a little side tangent. But shout out Onyx. Onyx, you got a great dad, because not everybody's like that. So I just wanted to put that in there. Yeah. But want to kind of circle back. You've touched on a couple things already, and I don't want people to miss. You have so many hyphens. I want to make sure we learn about this guy. The story is far from done, y'all. So we talked about, you know, young age, growing up around the church to, okay, high school, I went to the Army. Let's take me there. How did Shomari, maybe 2 or 3 kind of pivotal decisions or events or experiences, realizations that kind of guided you to how you kind of operate today?
A couple of big ones. One big one was again being inquisitive and how things work and wanting to see how things work. So figured out I didn't know too much about elected officials. I mean, now I do because I worked for one. And, I can move around that political space, but back then I didn't even want to be in a political space. But I started asking elected officials, telling them, hey, I want to be more civically engaged. How do I do this?
Was there something that happened that kind of sparked that interest, or?
I was doing a lot of volunteering, and I do a lot of volunteering now, even just to understand things and just see different perspectives and kind of put myself in different spaces. And that's what it did. It definitely put me in different spaces where I learned different things and got to work with different people and have a lot of relationships based off of just showing up and volunteering. Hey, you need anything? Can I move this table for you, this chair, pick up a piece of trash, bring somebody some water, whatever I can do, and really learning about that space.
So is this kind of like when you got back from the Army, did you feel like you was kind of doing a lot of volunteer work and finding yourself in different spaces?
Yeah, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I mean, I still don't know what I want to do, but I'm a lot more comfortable with not knowing what I want to do exactly. But then just trying to figure it out. How am I going to figure it out? What's a quick way to get into a door? You go volunteer. I just recently, like this week, was talking to somebody like, man, I'm going to go ask somebody, can I go sweep in their business? You learn. You understand what's happening, what's going on, and you meet people that you need to know. And just, I'm always looking for experience. Always looking for experience and figuring it out what my purpose is. I've been told that from a young age too. You got a purpose. It's something you're supposed to be doing. So I'm still on the road to discovery.
Yeah. think that's funny. I'm like imagining, remember the show Secret CEO? Where it's the guys walking there with the broom, little do you know. Okay, so tell me a little bit more. You said you got to work for an elected official. What was that kind of path into politics like? And do you see yourself actually, continue to do work in that space? I know you still do work in that space, but the question I'm going to lead to eventually is, are you going to run for anything, sir?
I don't plan on running for anything. It would have to definitely be people calling for me, which people I have been asked, but it would have to be a outpouring saying, "Hey, we need you, and this makes sense."
Careful what you wish for. But just going to put that. When we drop, we'll make sure we hit some people up. But anyway.
There we go. I mean, that's the assumption, especially working for an elected. Most people work for an elected with the thought of going into that pathway. And really, it was two things that I was interested in. Because, again, being a serial entrepreneur, I thought about what are the languages of business. The baseline languages of business. You got two, law and politics. Those two connect a lot, but all business is going to cross those paths at some point. If you stay in business, you're going to have to find somebody that speaks law, or you're going to have to find somebody to speak politics, or you're going to have to learn it yourself.
Right.
So that's how I approach business. And like, okay, how do I make more money? Maybe I should learn these languages, and then I'll be able to speak business at the highest level.
Right.
And then now it's definitely changed. It's not just about business, but our way of life and how we do things, and really enjoying life. Like, how do we get the most out of what we're doing?
For sure. So I'm going to keep teasing because, I'm pulling teeth right now. This guy has done so many amazing things. He don't like to brag on himself. But we got to talk to the people. We need to know. So you're volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
You decided I need to learn the language of business and politics. You found yourself being your curious self, asking questions, putting yourself in different environments. How did you find yourself working for an elected?
I found myself working for the city of Oakland doing some violence prevention work. I would always be out and around in different places, and so I was asked to do some violence prevention work in West Oakland, and then ran some successful neighborhood events around violence prevention, and the supervisor caught wind of it and came out and saw some of the things that I was doing, and reached out to me about a conversation, and invented a job for me, community engagement associate.
Can we just address how crazy that is, first of all, on two levels? First of all, you're basically your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. People are seeking you out for violence prevention. And then, it goes up the ranks all the way beyond the mayor, beyond OPR, whatever, and it goes to the county level, and you get a call from Supervisor Carson. And from there, you said he develops a role that you mold to the body of Shomari. And that was community
engagement associate.
Community engagement associate. So if you had to, I guess give a Twitter bio JD of what that's all about, how would you describe that role?
Community liaison. I didn't have a policy area, so I worked on all policy areas. Usually, elected staffers have a policy area or a region that they cover. Mm-hmm. I covered all the regions. I covered all the policy areas, even things that were outside our region. Like, I would go in and support programs in San Quentin. That has nothing to do directly with the neighborhood that we serve, but it has something to do with the neighborhood we serve, because you got returning citizens. So any kind of initiative like that, I would take on. Initiatives that dealt with the African American community, Black community, I would take on. Anything with community, like I would get calls all times of the day and night around ideas or gripes that people have. So
do you have a favorite, initiative or piece of work, project that you contributed to or worked on in that time?
I have several. One of them was African Americans Making Connections. Okay. That was a large event that we put on where we had workshops and different connection points for African Americans to come together. It would be business, nonprofits, government, whatever sector you came from, came together and just talked about what was happening in our community. The work in San Quentin was phenomenal work. I would go in all the time and meet the smartest brothers that I ever met in my life, and it was just like, wow, this pathway, our pathways could have been different,
Right.
both of ours, and really seeing that, and really seeing how systematically a lot of our brightest have been locked away,
Yeah.
and haven't been able to live their potential. So being able to support them and help them come back home and live successful lives is definitely a highlight.
Not at all. Definitely. I love that. What were some of the difficulties or challenges that you remember dealing with in this type of work? And more generally, it can be at your time with the county or, kind of any of the other spaces that you found along your journey. Like, what are some of the major challenges that you think kind of stand out to you?
Change. People are afraid to change, even when it benefits them. You just don't want to change. I'm used to doing something, and something can save you some time, save you some money, save you some energy, and you'd rather not do it because you just don't want to change. That's been a big difficulty. Trust is another difficulty, especially in the Black community that people have, is being able to trust each other, to be able to work with each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those two definitely.
Definitely. It's deep rooted too. It's not, a trivial thing that's going to be a quick fix, because a lot of the time I think historically the mistrust has been justified. Like we haven't really had the levels of abundance or room for error that many other demographics have. So it's like, you're not going to mess up my one shot. Like, we good over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's something in our community needs to realize too. It's just not one shot.
Yeah.
And we need to allow grace for each other.
Yeah.
And accountability shouldn't be a weapon. Accountability should be a way that we support each other. You said you was going to do this, you didn't. Do you need some help in getting it done? Instead of, he didn't do this, he ain't right.
Right.
It's a lot of circumstance that comes from out of our community.
That's really interesting because, it could be argued that our culture is a source, if not an inspiration, of the cancel culture. Like Nino, right? Get him out of here.
He out of here.
You're cooked. But I love that you said accountability is not a weapon. That's a bar for sure. Yeah. I kind of want to circle back one more time because I have a story that you tell that I absolutely love. How did they know they had to hire you to be the community? I can't get that role for the life.
Community engagement associate.
Community engagement associate.
Oh, so that story. So I was asked by a staff member if I needed anything for the event, and I'm like, I need cash. We got people who need money. They don't need to wait for a check. They don't need to wait 2 weeks. They don't need to sign up. I just need to be able to put some cash in people's hands, and I can put them to work. And it was like, okay. And so I got $500 for you. Or I'm going to show up at the event with this $500. As she's pulling up, a neighborhood fight break out. And I don't even know what's going on, but I jump in her car. I almost got hit with a pipe jumping in her car because she see the fight going on, don't know what's going on. I'm like, you got the cash? And this fight was over a Metro bill, $40 Metro bill. Yeah. And I gave the dude $50, and he swept that night and swept every other night after that. And they were like, it caught some attention. Like, he just really just stopped a big fight with $50. Yeah. And I'm like, this is why I need a little cash. If I can put some cash in somebody's hand, we can
make it happen.
We can fix some problems.
Yeah. It was funny though, because I remember you telling me, it was like, what did you do? Like, what was the magic recipe for, calming this storm? And it was just, you made it look so simple. But I think that kind of goes back to, your nature of just being curious, understanding people's problems, listening, and then, then inserting solutions, as opposed to a lot of times when people think about politics, they think about stuff kind of rolling downhill, and we got these policymakers who are detached from the realities of situations. Whereas when I think of you as somebody who is, for and by the community, a lot of people, I think, if they're thinking like me, kind of have a hard time placing you, right? It's like, I'm going to see you at this community event talking to who's, and then I'm going to see you out here breaking up these fights at the same time. I think that's just a nice duality that kind of puts you in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we need to realize that we one step from being the president, one step from being locked away for the rest of our lives.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's something that I live with, and something that, like, bring a little fear for me. Like, man, I can, one bad decision, and it's all over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's humbling in that sense, and it's humbling where I came from, and just, like, seeing people, it's a saying, the first to be last and last to be first. And, like, really being able to see that kind of thing develop and understanding ebb and flows, that was something I got in the Army. Just, it's like, hey, people come back around. You're going to see this person again if you stay in the Army long enough. Mm-hmm. Watch how you treat people. So, that was something that I took from there and heard it again different ways in my life. And it's just like, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, and we need each other. I got a saying that I painted on a piece of glass that I have in my house, and it says, "Everything in life is a loan. Pay it back or pay it forward." Mm-hmm. Everything, it's not yours. Pay it back or pay it forward.
I don't even know what to say to that, man. You got me there. That's one of those ones. Put that on not even a T-shirt, on a piece of glass.
Yeah, a piece of glass. I painted another saying in my house, give more than you take.
Yeah.
We all need things, and it's okay to receive benefit from what you do, mm-hmm. but give more than you take.
100%. With that being said, what would you say is the impact that you're looking to leave with the work that you're doing? I know it's so multifaceted, so, try your best.
Yeah.
But if you had to try and put it succinctly, like, what is the impact that you're looking to have?
Some of it is mindset change. A lot of it is mindset change in our community. I think that some mindset shifts can really build on our economic development and really build on sustainability of our communities. Our community stable. I was just having a conversation yesterday just about Black community, or any other community, pick any nationality, where's a dope spot?
Dump spot?
Dope
spot.
Where the dope fiends at?
Oh.
You don't see it like you see it in the Black community. You can absolutely tell where drugs are being used and sold. Mm-hmm. You don't see those in other communities, and that's by design. Why did these things happen? How did it affect us in a different way than it affected other people? Like coming from West Oakland, crack was bought in. Iran-Contra can go all night about that, but crack was bought in, and it was able to affect our community a certain way. And it was able to affect our community because our social capital moved out. A little something called integration. So now this doctor, this lawyer, and this pastor don't live next to you. These people that can help support the community, they live somewhere else because they moved out. And when we start thinking about our community and our community being together, we can weather some storms.
Yeah,
and you can, I would put that in economic lights. I ran a nonprofit for a couple of years, and I still do a lot of nonprofit work, but I actually was the executive director of a nonprofit. And when I entered the role, I was trying to shift staff mindset in terms of how we interact on a business level, where you get your toilet paper from. Something as simple as that. And understanding you got a Black-owned toilet paper company, Freedom Paper. Where you getting the soap to wash your clothes? You got a Black-owned soap company, True, right, that you can do these things from. And the idea is that you don't get a discount, but that they hire somebody that's from our community, and we keep some economic, keep the economic wheel spinning, and we keep the dollar in our community a lot longer than what it is. It's like 13 seconds in the black community. You know what I mean? The dollar come in, the wind blow, and it's already out.
Yeah.
So how do we look at ourselves? How do we look at our businesses and really be able to circulate these dollars, which in turn put us in a place to be neighborly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not in survival mode and you're eating, more than likely to say hello. You're less likely to be knocking somebody's head off. So, you know, all of these things have this kind of basic need for community connection. Just being human, being able to say hello.
Right on. You said a lot there. I hope people are listening. Yeah, you got my wheels turning over here. I want to try and bring it down to the earth for people. What are some easy, kind of low-hanging fruit that people can approach to try and start making this mindset shift? Like, what are some things that people can tangibly do in their day-to-day lives? Whether it is, you know, like you said, at a company level, like changing who, you know, voting with your dollar. Mm-hmm. What are some other things people can do?
Look at the basic community. The basic community is I. And doing some introspection. What are you doing? How do you support community? We all have faults. We all make mistakes. But overall, again, in the sense of give more than you take, what are you doing? Very basically saying hello to people, give somebody a head nod. That's it. I mean, like, it's very simple things that lead to other things. But if you never say hello, you never put yourself in a place, and then it won't happen. So very, very basic.
It's that man in the mirror, right?
Saying hello. And I mean, I got still one from Marshawn, take care of your chickens.
Talk about it.
Take care of your mentals, you know.
Yes.
Having some kind of practice, some kind of way with all that's going on to relieve your mind and be stress-free.
You throwing all the lobs right now because you keep circling me right into my questions, and I love it. How do you keep yourself grounded among all the chaos and the challenges and the moving around in the world? What are some things that kind of bring you that clarity, that peace?
I got some physical things that I do, like where I walk 3 times a week and hit some bar work, push-ups, and those kind of things where I'm doing something physical, some stretching, some breathing, making sure that my body's right. But I'm constantly checking in. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, but I check in with somebody and just run it by them. A lot of decisions, especially big decisions. And I'm always seeking people to be a part of the circle to run ideas around. What do you think? How do you see this? Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Yeah. They might tell me no, still probably gonna do it, but at least I ran it by somebody.
I had a little gut check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not having ego and being able to check things against people, because we all have perspective, we all have knowledge. Yeah. I used to. I don't do this so much no more, but, you know, the saying, you can learn a lot from a dummy. When they decide to crash test dummies. And that's a very true statement. You know, sometimes we pass by the wino at the store, and we like, he a wino, he don't know no better. Dude is probably the smartest person in the community and probably seen everything that happened before. You know what I mean? He know what's going on. He just on that wine. Yeah.
But I think about that a lot, actually. Like, what they say, even a broke clock right twice a day. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like you can learn something from anybody, and it might not come in the form of, you know, outright advice, but it might just be, you know, learning from somebody else's journey or path and their mistakes or whatever the case may be. But I definitely try and keep that humility too. Like, no matter who you're talking to, you can pick some game up for sure.
Yeah, and just being aware too. You hear something twice, and you probably need to pay attention.
Right. First time's a coincidence.
Yeah, universe tell you again.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
you need to listen.
It's a message.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay. Yeah, so I'm loving that. Anything else you can think of that kind of brings you down to earth? For me, I definitely resonate with the physical activity, kind of getting into the body. I've been trying to, like I said, be more. That's my resolution. You know, I'm one of those January gym people right now, but I'm trying to keep that as a part of my regimen, because I think it's feeding me in a lot of different ways. I actually think we talked about it a while back when we were talking about how kind of paying yourself in that way shows up in different avenues of your life. Like you talked about, like how Keith is always like walking the lake or stuff like that, or, you know, staying active, and how you kind of do the same thing with the walks and everything, and how that kind of, you know, having known I knocked out some push-ups today, or having known I did my just do's today, now I can feel like I'm gonna show up for myself in a lot of different ways throughout the day.
Even if you don't have a regular practice, I started understanding the meditative value in just about any action that you do. Riding a bike can be meditative.
Yeah. It's more about how you're doing what you're doing,
you do
right?
the consciousness, a little bit of consciousness, a little bit of time to relax, no matter what you do. You know, it's a lot of physical activities that people do, just sitting and raising your posture and just being intentional about your time and say, hey, this is some time for me. Just sit in the car. We all do that long sigh, but really realizing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Just one deep breath. That's something I do with my son all the time. He start getting flustered. 3 deep breaths.
Yeah.
And you know you got to take them, and it stops him and it pauses him in a way that he can get right back to doing what he's doing. So, you know, just really understanding the meditation of everyday actions, no matter what you're doing. Typing on a keyboard. You can do, when I was in college, I used to type my papers to a beat. I put on some headphones and DMX is blasting, something like that, and I'm writing this paper because it became a meditative thing to write to that beat.
Yeah, I don't think I have that. I'm the type of person that starts typing what I hear, but I definitely can relate to the you know, if I throw on some instrumental or something like that, I kind of get into a little groove.
you gotta break the monotony a little bit.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Just let it go. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's we got to give ourselves some grace to just be. And like, you know, meditative practices, they talk about monkey mind, and you can't fight it. When your mind is going all over the place, you can't fight it. You just realize that it is. Yeah. And you let it be. And then next thing you know, you're not tripping off of it no more. Yeah. So, I mean, even with that, you just letting yourself be and finding things that work for you. Like you're talking about the typing. When I had an iPhone, iPhones are excellent at speaking in your notes. Yeah. And sometimes my hand's not working, so I can just pull out my phone and say what I need to say and get this thought out and realize the space that I'm in.
Yeah. So, I definitely think that that's something that it's kind of underrated, like note taking and actually like going back and revisiting your notes. It's like
revisit is the hard part.
Revisit is the hardest part, but I think it's the most important part because it's like you get to see, like you said, that mental state, and you get to see, you know, trends that you might not have even been aware of. So, for example, you know, I have a technology background now, but my first thing was actually business and marketing. So, like, I would go back and look at my notebooks from 2016, 17, and that's before I really kind of formally started studying computer science, but I was already starting to think about these questions and stuff like that, like, you know, would it be possible to build a computer in this way, or why don't they do it like this? And it's just really interesting to see, you know, even before I think that I was on that path, I was already kind of thinking about it through, and it's only knowing that because of the notes. Yeah. And it's like a little form of time travel, right? Like you get to go back and see what you was on, which is...
Compare with yourself. What you're thinking. You know, on another note too, I talked to you about this working on an app. Yes. Where it's part tracker, part vision tool, part goal setting, part wellness, and it's called the I Am Planner. It's a mobile app in development. That will help you. Prioritize your time and really look at your time and how you're spending it and how that time makes you feel. And it's called the I Am Planner because you develop these I am statements. Who are you? I'm a father. And if I look at my schedule and I haven't spent time with my son, am I being a father? Am I being who I say I am? And then again, on the back end of that, being able to assign emotion to the time that I spent. I spent time doing a podcast. How did it make me feel? Make me feel great. Okay, do I need to do more things like this? And then I really have a visual, and I really have an understanding of how I spend my time and evaluating how it makes me feel, how I'm producing, and getting the most production out of yourself and the most fulfillment.
Yeah. I love this app so much. And the more I hear you talk about it, it's like I really, I just wish I had a dev team, or like, I wish I could build this thing with you, because the way that you're thinking about how you spend your time, I think, is a lot more nuanced than maybe I would say most people actually dive into. Like, as far as like, there's layers. Like, there's one step of, what I put, and because you always say, beyond the business card. And it's like, there's this layer that people have that, okay, this is my title, therefore I'm mostly doing this stuff in my job description. But the first thing you default to is like, no, like on a personal level, like, okay, what about my role as a father? What about my role as, you know what I'm saying? So like, there's already that extra layer. And then you go as far as to say, now how, not just how am I spending the time, but how is that time actually making me feel? Because a lot of people will never ask that question. Like, okay, I'm a computer scientist. I'm running this bag up. It doesn't matter how I feel. Like, this is what the objective is. This is what I do. But, it might not even necessarily be serving you the best way to, fulfill that job title, right? Absolutely. And that's where you need to pivot. And people don't ever really, I think about that enough.
I had somebody, he's in real estate, and he said something that was profound to me. And he said, we were talking about property, and he was like, is his property living to his potential? Even something like a piece of property. And it's like, that's the thing that we should all be seeking. Am I living to my potential? Am I living a full life?
Right.
I don't believe in people dying at a young age is necessarily a bad thing if they fulfilled their life.
Right.
You can fulfill your life earlier than somebody else can. And it's like, did you live a fulfilled life? Can you honestly say that?
Yeah. Are you surviving? Are you thriving? Right? Are you
absolutely
doing what you have to do or what you want to do? It's a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, you were saying something and just, I'm always trying to connect with people and their passions. Because we do, in America, and I learned this traveling, going to different countries, spent some time traveling in Central America by myself without being able to speak Spanish. Like, I'm that kind of person. I'm just going to be out and learn.
Riding on the chicken bus. So we're just
that's a whole other story. But I noticed that in other countries, people don't use their titles. In this country, I'm Dr. such and such, so a doctor must be this, and that's not really how I define myself. I'm really a composer. I'm just a doctor as a profession because I need to feed my family. But this is what I really love doing, and I can make a connection in that way. Like when I was in college, I tell kids this all the time. Kids, if you're out there listening, like teachers are people.
First and foremost.
You find out what your teacher is passionate about and you connect with them as a person. The first thing you do is be cordial. Be polite. Hey, good morning. You ain't got to like them. Just be cordial. Let's go back to that connection. Second thing is that is understanding them as a person and making that connection. I had a teacher who loved movies. And, if you related your papers back to a movie, probably get A. Because he interested in reading it.
Right.
And so, like, I learned that, and I developed a way to fold a movie line or something about a movie
in there,
into my papers. And he'd be interested in reading it, and I would listen to my teachers in a way that I could pick up on who they are as a person, what their interests are, and I'm like, I'm writing this paper to them.
Yeah.
Not just writing this paper to a person.
That, he just gave y'all a 4-year marketing degree in 2 sentences. This man, rule number 1 of marketing, know your audience. So writing the paper, same thing. Know who you talking to, their ears going to open up. That's some game right there. That can be the difference between a C- and a C+. If they know you, they know you know them. They want to see you win. as not, not just on the level of, oh, they're kind of not pandering, but
Right.
you're kind of tailoring it to them, and they're gonna obviously enjoy reading more. But say, for example, you still just don't have your grammar right.
Yeah.
They might slide you a little bit of slack because
They're
you
gonna
know
slide it
what,
to you.
he's paying attention to something. He's there's intention behind it.
Just
Not
like
to say
I
that
tell
it's,
kids all the time, high school kids, I do a lot of volunteering in my high school, and I see a kid with an F, and I'm like, you know what F mean? They go, failure? Say, no, that mean F you. Because you said F you to that teacher, so that teacher saying F you back.
You wasted time.
Because if you come up and you show up every day, if you come to class every day and you say hi and bye, it's hard for them to fail
gonna give
you.
you
They're
at
going
least
to
a
find
D.
a way to give you a D.
That's
So now
very
you got
real.
a D. Now you start doing a little bit of work. Now you got a C. Then you
Yeah.
pass a couple tests. Now you got a B. And this is how you develop getting the grade and getting the thing that you want. And I'm like, if you get an F, you did something. You got to look at
or
yourself.
you did nothing actively.
Right.
No, I think that's first of all, I think we should look at education more communally, because we spend a lot of time there. Like, that's basically your job when you were a kid, right? You're going to spend 8 hours with these folks. You might as well get to know them, if not like them. But I can definitely speak to that. I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Radigan. Shout out Mr. Radigan, because I never would have made it. When I tell you, it was trigonometry. I'm not a math person. This is a narrative I've told myself my entire life. I'm a language guy. I can write you a story, an essay, whatever. I felt like I had a hard cap at math. And this was like, I think one of my last serious math classes, like either late junior year or senior year. And I just wasn't getting it. I was, doing all the homework. I was in class, and the test was coming back, and it was still giving me the L. And I'm like, man,
What do I do?
what do I do? But to that point, I started going in, or the class was like right before lunch, so I would stay during lunch and just be like, yo, can you just run this by me one more time? And, say it to me, give me a basketball analogy, give me something, like, help me out here. And I think that we really built a relationship over the course of that semester. And, I got that C. And I still think about that a lot, because he could have easily, just chalked it, or I could have just chalked it and said, I'm just not a math person. But I think that persistence and that at least showing of the desire to learn was the difference maker. Because like I said, I didn't get no much better grades on the test. It's just, I just snuck by the skin of my teeth on that one.
But you're speaking to the point. Like, understanding the world is relational, and like you putting in effort. Like, like again, something with my son. Like, I don't care if you're good at something as much as I care about you putting in an effort, because you're doing it. If you're gonna do it, put in an effort.
Yeah.
And that effort, most of the time, shine more than ability. It's a lot of people with talents and abilities and don't use them.
What they say about talent beats, or the hard week. Man, I can't speak today.
Yeah.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Just put in that work.
that's
Just
the
show up
one.
and do something.
Yeah.
And then you build on those relationships. And I mean, like, I say all the time, I eat off the land. Like, I've been able to change jobs. People be like, you did what? And you did what? And you did what? I mean, like, I got into, from the photography thing, I was out one night just clubbing, and ran into this dude that's a pretty prominent producer in the Bay Area. And I see him out, and he was sitting on his car, and I'm like, man, that looked like an album cover. He said, you design album covers? I do now. And I learned how to design albums. And this dude, he basically kidnapped me. He took me to dinner that night, and I stayed with him the whole next day working on a magazine layout. And it's like, got myself into graphic design doing that, which led to some other jobs. And just, you know what I mean? Just putting in effort, being open. And I eat off the land. The land take care of me, because I'm giving something back to the land. I'm always trying to cultivate.
Right.
Always trying to cultivate.
Throwing yourself lobs off the glass, man. I feel like you're the type of person that would go crazy in like LA or New York or like even Atlanta, like where there's like a large ecosystem of
I don't
kind
know
of
if
hustlers.
I like people that much.
I know, but I feel like you would thrive in that environment. You put on the front well enough to where
It's like I'm such a behind the scenes person. Like, I was meeting with somebody earlier, and they thought I was being sneaky, and I'm just like, I never want to be in the forefront of anything. You know what I mean? Like I'm behind the scenes. I'm quiet. Don't ask me to speak in front of
Not
people.
anymore.
Yeah, we
Nah,
talked
I get
about
that,
this.
though.
I don't want to speak in front of large groups. I'd rather speak one on one. This is easy to do, even
Yeah.
with a camera there. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not
Right.
going to look at it. I'm only speaking to you.
Yeah.
Speaking to a forum, that's a little different
Be
for
a
me.
little.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm definitely the same way. It's definitely an adjustment, just being, because to your point, I've started to think about myself in terms of, impact I can have in my community and stuff like that, right? So it's like, unless you're a professional, it's hard to stay always behind the scenes. Like, you can have to speak up or, get in front of a group at some point in time. So that's definitely been a journey for me, like just finding that voice, getting comfortable, being seen and stuff like that.
It's a part of growth, and I mean, on certain levels, you got to market yourself.
Right.
And I struggle with that, but you constantly got to say what your talent is so that people know and people know what you do. And that's some of the work that I do, is making sure that our community is connected and we know what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. Who to put who in contact with and everything. 100%.
Yeah, putting in contacts. And I mean, like conversations like these one-on-ones, that's what keep me moving. People call me all the time. Hey, you got such and such number? Can you hook me up with such and such? And it's because I sit and talk to somebody and I'm able to put people in the conversations with people they need.
100%. I want to switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about, I guess, life up to now and the work that you're kind of currently doing and things that people can do that supplement that work. What's something, Shomari's mayor, president, Earth, whatever, you're just the guy and you're giving us a direct executive order. What's something that you hope that we could find a way to do as a society, as people in your lifetime?
Man. See beyond ourselves. That's where a lot of anger and frustration come from, because somebody doing something to you. And I get some road rage, and I ain't gonna blow the horn, but people crazy.
I get right there.
But I'm sitting in the car, and it's because they cut me off.
Yeah.
They didn't see me.
They be in their own bubble, right? Their own world.
Yeah, they might not have seen me. They might be rushing to the hospital to go see one of their loved ones or something. You know what I mean? It's all kind of things that happen, and I just really believe that when we all have that compassion and that empathy for each other, then it's a lot easier for all of us. So, that compassion and empathy, and just let it snowball. That commercial where they say thank you, I do that every once in a while. I just say thank you to somebody randomly, and they confused. They don't even know why. Thank you. And then you guys they say thank you back, or say thank you to the next person. Nobody even know where the thank you came from, but it evokes a certain kind of spirit.
Gratitude, 100%. I think that's really slept on too. Like, just like you said, seeing beyond the self, but also to the point where it's like, thank you for just being here. Thank you for being yourself. Even if you didn't do nothing for me, you're doing plenty by being, and it changes the frequency that we're engaging with each other with.
Man, I mean, we didn't touch on that, but that's one that I'm really being intentional about these days. And like, even when I'm having a rough day and I lay my head on the pillow and all my thoughts start coming to me, and I'm feeling pissed or I'm feeling down or any kind of negative emotion, and I'm like, my head is on the pillow. I'm happy that my head is on the pillow inside four walls.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I got an opportunity tomorrow.
Right.
And like, it's something too, gratitude. You can't be I've heard it's two emotions. Love and its opposite, which is fear.
Mm.
Love is in the spectrum of gratitude. You can't have love and fear at the same time.
Mm.
So when you're in this constant state of finding gratitude and things to be gracious about, just your whole attitude change, and you're able to let stuff slide off your back and keep it moving. You know what I mean? Because we all going through something and have our downs, but it's about that resiliency.
What can you kind of anchor
What's in front of me?
yourself?
What
Yeah.
opportunities I have?
Right. 100%. So, what are some things that I guess people should be thinking about or focusing on as we're trying to chart our way to, thinking more holistically and beyond ourselves?
Creativity. This is what our community needs more than anything. This is what we need in the Bay Area. Things are absolutely going to change. Things are absolutely changing. And in some ways, we need to embrace that change by being creative and thinking through, okay, what do I want this to really look like? And not being scared of that change, like I talked about earlier, and just it's gonna change whether you want it to or not. So how do you create a place for yourself? How do you create a space for your people, for your community within it all? The landscape of Oakland has changed dramatically over the last 5 years in terms of how many buildings are being built. The landscape of community, just who makes up those communities has changed. There are some elements that we do want to keep as community, but we need to be able to be creative in keeping those and creative in what it looks like in the future. Back again, economically, what does it mean to operate in this new economy? How do we see ourselves in technology? We all walking around with computers in our pockets, but how do we interact with that world? And not just on a consumer level. How do these things, how can we shape that even? What are we asking of an app developer or a phone maker that's going to make our lives easier or make our lives better? Like, what are we doing? Because we can all shape it. And I mean, like, those things we should be thinking about collectively. How are we shaping our future? Technology is coming in a way that we never imagined. I remember the first computers. And I remember just one single command, and computers getting so hot that you got one computer in a room and it's 30 degrees in there because you don't want it to overprocess to you having apps to do anything on your phone. And I'm like, how do we use that technology? I used to do some enrichment teaching, be in class, and the students would be trying to sneak and use their phones. And I'm like, that's a computer. Pull it out and use it. You should be Googling this. Don't just talk to your friend right now. Pull it out and use it as a resource. I'm asking a question. You got the question at the palm of your hand. You got the answer at the palm of your hand. Right. Pull it out and use it. So, I mean, like, we need to be creative in our uses of technology and how we see our place in the technology field.
100%. I remember that was kind of like a big thing that people were kind of raving about when ChatGPT first came out, and they was concerned about kids using it for like cheating or doing their assignments and stuff like that. But to your point, I think it's more so we gotta kind of have to reframe how we think about education and sourcing information and everything, because like you said, it is a tool, and the kids should be encouraged to use all of their resources, because it's only going to make them more resourceful. If you're kind of cutting off their limbs, then they're not going to be thinking about, creative ways to find solutions, because they're always worried about what I can and can't do, right? But I just remember that being kind of a contention point, and people kind of defaulting towards let's restrict, let's move away from, as opposed to let's integrate, let's collaborate with this new thing.
Because critical thinking is not a thing of our education system. And really, it goes back to what we were saying before, is these systems are input-output. The ChatGPT is only good as the question is asked. It's a critical process to figure out the question that you need to ask, not so much in finding the answer.
Yeah. No, I love that full circle right there. Yeah, the question is often the problem.
And that go back to, like, theories of thought and things that, like, sometimes when I visualize what I want for the future or how something is going to come out, I just leave it alone. It's not my business to figure out how it's going to happen. It happens because you see it and you create that vision.
Yeah.
A lot of times we try to get into the business too much, and then we go, possibilities. Is this possible or not? What's the probability? And all these things that are not our business.
Yeah.
Sometimes things simply come to us because we can see it. We hold that vision. We hold that feeling.
Yeah.
Prayer should have a feeling to it. How do I feel about this? If I can have a thought and a feeling, that's what true prayer is. And that's how you make things come about. And that's when they say prayer changes. Yeah, because I have a thought, I have a visualization of something, and I can feel it. And I hold that long enough, it'll happen.
It has to take form. Yeah.
You don't get to ask how it happened, but it happened.
It gravitates to you.
Yeah.
Something I definitely wanted to pose to you, because I just think you're the perfect example of becoming actively civically engaged for the everyday man. A lot of things are changing in the political landscape, specifically in the East Bay. What are some things that you recommend people do to be able to start influencing, like you were talking about, and becoming part of the decision-making process and becoming just more aware and more engaged with what's going on?
Showing up in community. That's where you're going to learn what's happening and what things mean, and understand how it operates on those levels. Is showing up. Somebody doing an event, somebody having a carnival, somebody doing a festival, you show up. Somebody doing a movie screening, showing up to different things and being a part of community that way, which is sometimes economically based too, which builds upon that, but then sometimes it's socially based, but it's definitely informational. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then that's how you build those relationships. That's the simplest thing you can do. Just showing up to meetings, showing up to events, and supporting other people.
Are there any resources you can kind of put us on to, whether it's, places to find events, or, if it's more, I guess, centering around policy and stuff like that? Are there certain types of like town halls people should be going to, or where is the knowledge? Where is the information?
For events, you got things like Bay Area Registry Bar, where you can sign up for their newsletters. I know that L.A. Jones and CDA Consulting, they have resources where they're sharing things. If you want to know about government things, it's Gov Delivery, GOV Delivery. Dot something. You Google it.
If you type that in, you'll find it.
You'll see it. But I get several things from different entities. You can any government entity, BART, the city, the county, the water board. You can get information from. And I signed up for too many things, but when you go to an event or something like that and they asking for your email address, they're probably gonna load you with information that you need to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just like this activity being out. Like I said, I'm going to this meeting. I'm going to hear a little something.
Yeah.
You see the same people enough, they make an assumption that and they start telling you stuff that you didn't even know you needed to know.
Right. Yeah. So I guess to kind of reverse engineer that for the people listening, if you're, finding yourself interested in a certain space or topic, maybe the prompt is going on Google and saying, like you said, like BART events, or, the stuff that you're interested in and the thing that you want to show up to. So if it doesn't exist, you approach them and maybe help them make it exist. But if it does exist, you'll stumble upon it.
Just be interested.
Yeah.
I mean, like if something don't exist and you want for something, just, I'm into shooting my bow, shoot a bow and arrow, but I'm going to go to this welding event. I don't know who I'm going to meet there.
Right.
I'm going to run into somebody and we're just going to have a happenstance conversation about a bow. Oh, we both shoot a bow? Maybe we need to set something up and let's go work with some kids around teaching them, archery and exposing them to that. And the next thing you know, we're doing something else. And it's just, it always comes from these inquisitive natures and going to support people, just going to say hello.
I love that I can't tell if you're being like serious or not about the archery thing, because this is literally side quest Shomari. Like, he's always doing stuff like that, so he might mess around and go start an archery class for real.
I mean, I have some things written up. I mean, like, I got all kind of programs and things that we can do as community written up, and I mean, like, my problem is getting some of these things off and like really needing to build community in a way that get some of these things off my chest because it's some things that's like, even in the sense of technology, wrote a program to work with kids with RC cars. You take a RC car, electric car, you take off the top and you look at the chassis, it look like a Tesla, it look like a Lucid, it look like a Rivian. This is an introductory point for a young person to look at this toy that they playing with that they're going to have to fix at some point to be able to understand that technology and have a place in it.
I love
and
that.
it just not being around them. Oh, I bought a Tesla. You actually know how to operate a Tesla and work with a Tesla because you got this RC car that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's
a couple partnerships in there. I don't know. We gotta try and set something up. That sounds
so like, this is the way I think and be operating.
Yeah, I see the wheels turning. So kind of on that note, you talk about, just the need for support and community and trying to get these different initiatives backed and, help them take life. What are some ways that people can tap in with you or just get involved with the type of work that you're doing?
I don't know. I mean, guess social media. Look, that's most of the time people have my number or email or just see me out.
Go outside, you'll find this man.
I think this year I'm gonna be a little bit more focused in terms of creating this space. A lot of times I'm just at the space. Last year did the Black Men's Network meetings, so it's going to be a continuation of that. For a number of years, I've been working on a Black Economic Power Organization, BEPO. So there'll be some connection points to that. There's a Facebook group called Black Economic Power Organization that I'm going to start filtering some more work through. I'm a part of a number of events and things like that, and like a festival, Lake Fest, that happens every year. And last weekend in June, I helped manage that festival. And that's really a community connection point. And it's really important that people come out in Oakland, especially Black people. We're not going to know unless we come out. Find something. You might not want to go to everything, but find something. Events, the Black Joy Parade. Show up and say hello and meet somebody and create these connections.
Yeah, 100%. I just got to acknowledge it because, you won't. You love how you just slid in Lake Fest in there. That he's like, who is this guy? Like, be real. Glad we got there.
Yeah, a lot of side missions. I'm working on some
Shomari, man.
Manufacturing, working on economic development, do some work around housing.
What's that network called again?
Black Housing Advisory Task Force. It's a statewide organization that conglomerate of organizations around the state that are working to create Black communities. We say housing, but it's beyond just putting people in boxes. How do we build community? What are the things necessary for a community? We have a state ask. We asked the state of California for $1.5 billion for Black development. And that would go into capacity funds and it would go into pre-development so that we can be in the game. And ask not as part of reparations, because that's a whole separate animal, but as in the natural course of business. State of California, Black developers need this kind of money because this will solve a lot of these problems that you solve in other ways when we get in the game.
Yeah. I love that so much because we talk a little bit about this, and it's a distributed network of sorts because you said it's a conglomerate and it's statewide. And we talked at the beginning of the pod about, different definitions of community. And I just think this project is so interesting because, once again, we always kind of default to local. But I remember when my ears kind of perked up when you were talking about the idea of how do you build essentially a statewide city or a distributed city.
City across the state.
Yeah.
What are the things that make up a city? What are the amenities that you need and that you want? And they don't all have to happen in one place as we build them. We can build collectively because we're saying it's still needed and it's needed in this area or that area. But basically, without a charter, building a city that's across the state. We have housing here, got a museum here, we got open space here, we have, churches here, we have art center here,
Right.
and all of these different things. And like, how do we fund this? How do we collaborate in terms of how to make this enhance our communities more?
Yeah.
And thinking collectively.
Right.
It doesn't all happen in the same space.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing to me, because like when you think about in terms of like the resources and everything, some things are going to have to be locally based, right? That's just the nature of physical space. But when you think about a lot of things you were describing have cultural elements, like the art scenes, churches, and stuff of that nature, where it's like those things, if they were, connected at some higher level in the distributed network, they can still influence the spokes, if you will, the different nodes of, wherever these places may be located, but still have that kind of central culture. And I think that that's something that's really interesting to explore.
To give you a foundation to build on in different places, because it's going to be easier to do certain projects in different places. And so instead of fighting upstream, you just figure out a way to create it where you had the energy and where it might be, it might flow a little better.
Yeah.
So if in Fresno, it's easier to be a cultural center and Oakland housing, and we're going to do this community church in San Diego, and these things, they come together and they're funded and they're talked about and the energy happens collectively, and then you get to have those things there and they can be anchors. Because sometimes you just need to anchor institutions, just like a mall. Mall got one big store that everybody coming to. So,
shout out Dilly's and Macers, man.
Building these anchors in different places and supporting dreams in different places. It doesn't all happen to happen physically, and you're just building out this one city. I mean, the idea at some point you do, but now in development, you got people in different phases and different phases of funding, different phases of the actual development. How can these things come together and support each other, even though it's 300 miles away?
Right on.
Yeah, it's knowledge and cultural share.
Yeah.
Like the last retreat we had, it was more cultural share than it was even straight development talk, and it still help the development of these properties, which is really interesting to think of it that way.
Now it goes back to that community element, not just, surface level business, but knowing who you're dealing with and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got to think function. You got to think function when we're thinking community. Where do people eat? Where do people work? Where do people train and get educated? Where do people socially gather? I can go down the list, and it's just thinking of these elements of community, what makes a healthy, thriving community, and putting them together.
So to that point, how much of the work that you guys are currently doing is like, I guess, secondary research, like, going to the data and going to, the municipalities and saying, okay, how are people kind of flowing throughout the city? And then coupling that with primary research, like just talking to people on the day-to-day, like on the ground floor. How much would you say you guys are integrating the people in the process of learning what's important to build?
That's a constant process. That's a constant, and figuring out historically what's needed and how it was, and where things are moving, and like even when you're talking about a building and the Internet of Things, meaning all the technology that goes into a building, what technology is needed. It's a lot different from 20 years ago, building the building. So it's constant feedback from people that's on the ground. So like even people who are not directly related to development are part of those conversations. Like now we're developing a 40-year plan so that we have constant projects in the pipeline, and it's not a start over all the time. And it's not we're trying to figure this out. How do we support multiple things over time throughout the whole state?
I love that. I've been thinking a lot about, or it's been one of those things, like you said, if you hear it twice, pay attention. So not this past year, but last January, I went to CES, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and they had a panel talking about, I always forget the company, but the guy the founder of this company had a 250-year plan. And that always was just like, since then, I've always been really, I guess, emphasizing generational and, longer term thinking outside of even just my own lifetime. But it's refreshing to hear, because anybody who's jumping around the Bay Area has thought themselves a city planner at one point or another. So it's nice to hear that people are kind of having that foresight and thinking about, okay, where do we want to take this in the 40-year curve and everything. And I'm happy you kind of mentioned the IoT element, because that was a big kind of buzzword a couple years ago. Everybody, before AI, everybody was hype about smart cities and IoT and everything. So how are you guys thinking about that? 'Cause you put me on, actually, learned about, what is it? Smart City LA 2028 and everything. And I know we got Project 2036 out here or something like that. So how are you guys kind of navigating and weaving in all those other initiatives?
That's a constant. I mean, it's difficult too, especially in our community, to stay ahead of the conversations. But that's something that we got to work hard to do, is stay ahead of the conversation, so that usually when the public hear about it, those decisions have already been made.
Right.
Money is already spent. It's already figured out, and it's just a matter of staying ahead of those conversations. And that's something that's definitely politically related, and like using political relationships to know what's coming down the road, how funding is coming, looking at what's happening federally, understanding how money trickles down. That's something I learned working in the county, on the county level. And people go, the county got money, and how does the county get its money? Even with the county collecting property tax, the county just don't get that money in their account. They send it to the state. The state redistribute it. Understanding something like taxes. Any funding that comes down is a redistribution of wealth. You take taxes from you, the government figures out what departments they want to send it to, then those departments figure out those initiatives. That's a redistribution of wealth. How are we even thinking about our role within those? What kind of conversations are we having? Do we just accept money and just be cool with any money that we get, or do we start learning how to direct this money? Back to the Internet of Things and AI. I mean, like, it's really keeping it in mind and knowing that things are coming down the road, and figuring out usage, and figuring out how do we get our people to be in the cutting edge and in the front of that usage, or those industries. We have to start producing something. Black people have to start producing something. We have to be hands-on. We have to manufacture. We need to produce. We need to fix. All great professions and jobs within those realms. But if you're not doing that, then you're at the whim of somebody else. You can't be sustainable. You need people to put their hands in the dirt and grow food. You need people that can be mechanics. You need all of these things.
I was literally thinking about this today. Side tangent, but it's relevant, because the price of eggs is so damn high. I was like, I really got to the point where I was like, because I remember you used to be able to go to like the county fair and get like a chicken for like $25. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm just going to get a chicken and raise these things up and get my own eggs. And then I got to talking about it and everything, and I was like, just thinking about the concept of, because I was really upset about this. I'm like, you could buy like a 12-pack of wings for less than you could buy a dozen eggs. And in my head, the math is just not mathing. It takes 6 chickens to get you 12 wings. But you can get 12 eggs from one. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah, so I was really upset. Saying that
you got to raise them chickens.
I don't know nothing about raising. This is where I'm going with this. So, like, in theory, yes, 100%. I'm going to go buy.
You got to grow some wings.
I'm going to go be economical about this and buy the chicken. But then it's like, if I was really not just going to have eggs, if I wanted some barbecue, and I had to be the one responsible for slaughtering and preparing this chicken, that is a life skill that I'm so far removed from today. That,
absolutely.
Most people don't even think about like the process of somebody cut this chicken up that I can eat this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that's my
But these
tangent.
things, these are community conversations in a way too. At some point, I do a little bit of gardening, not nothing major, and because I got so many other things going on, and my brain is just all over the place. I'm like, just monocrop something.
Yeah.
If I grow onions, I'm not going to be able to make enough onion rings.
Right.
Off of
That's
these
how
onions,
communities
right?
used to be built.
You grow bell peppers, and you make it easier for people to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you do a monocrop, you're doing tomatoes. I can only make so many things with tomatoes. I can only make so many things with potatoes. Now, collectively, we got bell peppers, we got onions, we got tomatoes, we got
We got
potatoes,
soup.
somebody doing greens, and then you start to have meals.
Yeah.
And it's collective work.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we got to start thinking that way and always, but especially on the gardening. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what can I grow that's going to be easy enough for me to do?
Yeah.
One thing, concentrate on one thing. I don't need to learn the principles of gardening for everything.
But two things make that interesting. The one thing is that, you know, that almost forces interdependence, which right now we're just not used to. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm only growing onions and I want some bell peppers, I now depend on you. And that's something that we've kind of gotten away from. But two, and the point I was trying to make with the whole chicken tangent was that people don't know how to do things. People don't know where things come from anymore. Like, it's like that's not something that's emphasized at the, you know, at the base level. Like, we're not teaching kids this. This is not, you know, your core curriculum, even at higher education. Unless you know, seek out agriculture, you seek out that type of, you know, knowledge, it's not something that is considered foundational anymore. And that used to be, to your point, I think what a lot of community was built around. Like, we built around, you know, food and harvest season and all of this type of stuff that is kind of lost on
Our
us now.
society is very agriculturally based, and we don't even realize a lot of the things that we do. And like, why are we doing it this way and that way? It's based off of
Daylight savings time.
growing
Like,
things.
you know what I'm saying? Like, giving farmers more sunlight and everything. We're doing the thing right now. So we gotta land somewhere, Shomari. Couple things. One question I asked you about: what's one thing you wish we could find a way to do? What is your, I guess, ideal vision for the brightest possible future? What does that look like in your eyes?
My vision for community?
Take it there, however you interpret that. Just a brighter future.
Just like what we're talking about, this conversation that we're having. I mean, these conversations. You know, I'm hoping that this creates more conversations and this idea of collective work. This idea of everybody putting in a little bit. The idea is that we're not fighting over a slice of pie because it's a whole pie.
Yeah.
And if it's not, we take some of them eggs that somebody's now growing and make another pie.
Make some more pie.
We can create pies.
Yeah.
We don't need to fight over a slice. So that realization is something that's going to really get us there. I mean, I'm thinking when I learned how to screen print, I had a screen printing business for a while, and they had these black yellow pages back in the day. And I just cold called this guy. I'm like, hey, I want to learn how to print. Can come work in your shop? I work for free, just so I can learn. And I got worked and pulled some all-nighters and learned how to print. Still got a real good relationship with them. But he told me one day, he said, I'm like, you're not worried about me starting my own business? Like, nah, you still got to do it, and you still got to get up every day and make this happen. He's still printing, I'm not.
Yeah. No competition.
And I mean, like, when we have these kind of ideas and these concepts, and we work together, and we're not afraid to allow each other to shine or teach things to each other, and then that's what makes a brighter future. Just humanity, basic humanity.
I love how, you know, you just bring us right back. That was your initial statement of the mindset shift, right? Getting out of that kind of scarcity mode into a state of abundance and, you know, recognizing that there's enough for everybody and we can make more pies.
Yeah. Gratitude,
Yeah.
abundance, mindset, like these are the things that's the recipe for success, you know, and just taking that fear out, like doing things out of love. Doing them out of love, then you can't have that fear.
Right. Love that. All right, man. Before I let you go, is there anything you think the people should know?
Oh man, I don't even think I scratched the surface of
You're
like
not
some
even
of the
close.
projects that I'm working on. I mean, like trying to gather my thoughts and things around that. Like I'd love the opportunity to do it again because I think that this does a lot for us, and hopefully it's inspiring somebody else to get out and do better things for themselves and do better things for the world. I mean, like remember, it's community start with it's you. You know what I mean? And what are you doing? How are you doing it? Living a more fulfilled, fruitful life, being happy. If you happy, you're probably gonna treat me better. So I want you to be happy. I got a big brother. He always say, I want for my brother what I want for myself.
Mm.
You know what I mean? When we have that kind of mentality and we're not competing, we can go far.
You guys heard it. Shout out to Shomari Carter. You won't see
Shout
the
out to
last
him.
of him. You haven't seen anything close.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you.